rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd podcast.
I mean, you're pretty observant, right? You're driving around right now, going to work, you're looking at signs and stuff. If I said to you right now, what's the color of the car on the left? You probably know without looking. Like, you're pretty observant, right? You go to a mall and look at people. I think I am. We're all fairly observant. You ever see stuff and you can't figure it out? You're like, why did it take so long to figure that out? Like, for years, I'll give you one. McDonald's got into breakfast like 45 years ago. And I could never figure out why other companies that were rivals to McDonald's, and they would drive by on their way to work, and they would look at all those people at McDonald's, and they would say, yeah, we're just going to give our rival all their customers until noon. Like, in the last 5 years now, everybody's in on breakfast. But for 40 years, all the executives at all those other companies drove to work, saw McDonald's, saw the parking lot full, saw everybody get an Egg McMuffin, and for 35, 40 years didn't say, like, we probably shouldn't give away all that business until noon. I could never figure that out. Now, in the last 5 years, everybody's like, oh, yeah, tacos earlier, breakfast, okay. Now they're all lined up. I can never figure it out. I'll tell you another one I can never figure out. ESPN started, I wasn't here, obviously. ESPN started in like the 70s, right? And it took about 10 years to kind of, the story is ESPN knew it got big when people started stealing its banners, late 70s. But by the mid-80s, you watched it, I watched it, everybody watched ESPN by the mid-80s. By the mid-90s, it was like all the games were showing up on cable television, right? Like outside of like the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals, a lot of the games were on like cable, right? Why did it take all the networks until about 3 years ago to go, this cable sports thing, it's catching on in America. Yeah, it's kind of late. We have all the games. Like, I could never figure that out. For years and years, decades. You're watching with your son at night a game on ESPN. You run another network. You're not going, we may want to get some of these games and get into the cable business. Fast food, breakfast, cable sports. Never could figure it out. Here's something else. I'm watching Klay Thompson, Steph Curry last night. That's the best shooting backcourt in the history of the NBA. It is. Don't argue it. It is. It's the best shooting backcourt ever. Mark Jackson said it 2 years ago. It is the greatest shooting backcourt ever. And we've had some good backcourts. Frazier Monroe with the Knicks in the 70s. Magic, Byron Scott, Jerry West, Gail Goodrich for the Lakers. Different eras. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, very, very good. Utah had Hornacek and Stockton. Tip of the cap to Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, Philadelphia. Tip of the cap, Paul Westphal, Walter Davis, Phoenix in the 70s. Tip of the cap. But in the history of the league, in the history of the NBA, all those teams, all those cities, all those players, all those backcourts, 1,000. You've never had a backcourt where two guys were both really great shooters like this. Isn't the backcourt the dudes that handle the ball? Like, I watched that and I'm like, why have we had so few great shooting backcourts? I'll give you another one. Shortstop, second base. You know what wins in baseball. Pitching, defense, base running, situational hitting for 1,000 years. You start your team shortstop second. When you're building it, if you go to a GM, they're like, okay, we got to be strong catcher, shortstop, center field, second base up the middle. We got to be great there. Then we can get that. Well, we got a corner infielder, corner outfield. Look how few great shortstop, second base combos in the history of baseball. I'm telling you, about 4. Seriously. Jeter, Cano, doesn't count. Jeter was out of his prime. Cano was just coming into his. How many great shortstop second combos, both guys in their prime for a decade? 2. 1. Lou Whitaker, Alan Trammell, Detroit. Joe Morgan, Concepcion, Cincinnati 70s, but Dave Concepcion couldn't hit a wiffle ball. Forget it, baby. Dave Concepcion couldn't hit. But that was great. They had bench, catcher, Concepcion short, Morgan second, Cesar Geronimo center. Defensively, unbelievable. But Cesar Geronimo couldn't hit in center, and Concepcion couldn't hit it short. But after Whitaker and Trammell, Morgan, Concepcion, You kind of go to like Alomar Vizquel, but Vizquel couldn't hit either. It's the most important defensive position in baseball. We know pitching and defense win a World Series. There's almost none. It's amazing. Is it that hard? Is it that hard to do breakfast for fast food places? Is it? Maybe it is. Is it that hard sitting watching ESPN 35 years ago as an executive to go, we should get in the cable business? Is it that hard to find two great shooters simultaneously for about a 7 to 8 year run in the NBA? A lot of guys can shoot. You can never get them together. But you watch Clay and Steph Curry, you're like, this is easily the best shooting backcourt in the history of the league. I don't even know who's second shooting-wise, because Stockton was never a great shooter. Magic wasn't a great jump shooter. He was just a great player. Dumars was not a great offensive player. Frazier's one of the most underrated players in league history. He was great on both ends of the floor. Monroe wasn't much of a defensive player. Earl the Pearl could score, couldn't defend. Walt could do both. But I'm watching those guys last night. Give me the game, the shot by Curry that sent it to overtime.
Rebound space. Curry in the corner. Shoots. On the way. Got it. He hit it. 2.8 to go. He got clobbered as well. Holiday to throw it in. Tyreek Evans from midcourt. Shoots. Good as it goes. No good. We're going to overtime.
Where the Warriors won, lead the series 3-0. So do the Bulls. So do the Cavs over the Celtics. KNBR with a call. Heard brought to you by Regis. New way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES. The other thing that really jumped out to me last night, I watched a lot of NBA last night, is that, and I have no problem saying this Cleveland team right now, I don't need titles. I could tell you Andrew Luck was going to be a great NFL quarterback when he was a sophomore at Stanford. I mean, that's what baseball scouts do for a living. That's what NBA GMs do for a living. You're a fan, I'm a fan. This Cleveland team right now, it's better than those Miami LeBron teams. Well, it's better. Think about this. When LeBron James, with those Miami teams, when he got in foul trouble, or when LeBron James had to go to the bench, just so he didn't play 48 minutes a night in a 7-game series, what did you do? Oh, crap. 3 minutes left in the third quarter. He'll get the TV timeout and the quarter break, and then he has to get back in. It's not that way with Cleveland. Cleveland's going to roll through the East. Mozgov, Miami never had a legitimate big. Mozgov, they got one in Cleveland. Miami was mediocre at point. Kyrie Irving's a star. Neither Miami or Cleveland have a bench, but statistically, this is a better offensive team, and it is. JR, Love, Kyrie, LeBron. It's better than the Miami team. Kevin Love's allowed to do what Kevin Love likes to do. Chris Bosh was told go play another position. Wade struggled to stay healthy. This Cleveland team is younger, healthier, better at center, better at point guard, and LeBron James can leave the floor, and you don't go, oh, God, he's got to get back in 3 minutes. He doesn't have to do that anymore because Kevin Love, Kyrie, and J.R. Smith, without LeBron, is an elite offensive unit. These teams are absolutely. Now, who knows if they get to 4 straight finals, people could get hurt. But when I watch Cleveland and LeBron takes the bench, I don't even pause for a second. They're going to roll through whoever they play. They're offensively younger, healthier, more skill, legit center, legit point guard, star at point guard. Miami never had that. Miami had no center, lousy at point, and no bench. And if LeBron took a breather, you held your breath if you lived in Miami. You checked the clock. You don't do that anymore. LeBron at the bench last night, I forgot. They added to the lead.
Colin Cowherd. Looking good. Well, looking okay.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
He doesn't want to rebound, and this proves it. 7'5", 7'8", 8, 6'9", 6. LeBron doesn't want to be anywhere around that rim. He wants to be out on a break. His rebounding numbers keep going down and down and down and down. I think we forget. We think, LeBron and Miami, they went to the finals 4 straight years. That's because the Eastern Conference was pathetic. I mean, the last 4 years, the Eastern Conference has been awful. Chicago plays defense, but outside of Derrick Rose, who was often hurt, they couldn't score. The Celtics team with Pierce and KG got super old. The Indiana team offensively was kind of a one-man team. You prayed David West and Paul Pierce could score. They didn't have a third scorer. So, you know, you look at that Miami team, nobody thinks those Miami Heat LeBron teams were all-time great teams. Not even close to the Shaq, Kobe Lakers, not even close to the Showtime Lakers. They're not as good as the Chicago Bulls teams. They're not as good as the Pistons teams with Isaiah. No way. They were basically, people are forgetting. Chris Bosh, you could never count on him in big games in Miami for 4 years. He gave a 0, a bagel in a Game 7, a 0. And Dwayne Wade was constantly hurt, having to rest. The second team, the first championship team, the second Miami team was the best. They played real defense. But the last 2 years, physically, Wade just wasn't dependable. They had no bench, no center. Haslam? Joel Anthony? You gotta be kidding me. This team has more talent. Kevin Love's an elite player. Kyrie's an elite player. LeBron's an elite player. JR's an elite scorer. Mozgov's an elite big in this league. Mozgov is a very, very big force around the 10. I mean, he matters a lot. I think Chicago will push back a little, but when I watch Cleveland play, I think they're going to be really tested in the West. I think those teams like San Antonio that move the ball could give them a real test. But offensively, I think Cleveland has so many gifted players. Chauncey Billups joining us, the Herd on ESPN Radio. You know, I was just saying a second ago, Chauncey, I think, you know, that LeBron team in Miami, it felt like when he ever had to rest or got in foul trouble, you held your breath that they didn't lose a 7-point lead. Chauncey, I don't feel like Cleveland. I think LeBron can sit for 5 minutes, and they're a pretty good basketball team. How do you compare the Heat and the Cavs with LeBron?
Well, I think, you know, at the end of his tenure in Miami, LeBron's Heat team seemed to be the Cleveland teams that he left, where it was like he made every single play.
Yep.
And if he didn't have 35, 11, and 12, they were going to be in a dogfight. And I don't feel that way having the ball in Kyrie's hands. I mean, he's such an explosive player and scorer, and he's becoming an explosive playmaker for everybody else. And I just think, you know, this team has maybe more weapons than that Miami team had. Some of his Miami teams had, not all of them.
Does it worry you, Chauncey, that Kyrie sometimes can be a little ball-centric? And, I mean, he's a terrific offensive player. But does it worry you, Chauncey, that sometimes he knows he's a great offensive player?
Well, it's a little worrisome. It really is. But at the end of the day, that's part of his growth. You know, this is the first time you've seen him in the playoffs. You know, this is the first time. So that's going to be a part of his growth. But, you know, that does worry me. But at the same time, I mean, he's an impossible player to stay in front of. And a lot of times he has a glaring advantage at his position. So, yeah, does he need to learn how to make plays, learn when to take over a game and when to facilitate a little more? Absolutely. That's what most young guys do. However, his learning curve is becoming a little shorter in every single game because he's learning from one of the best that's ever done in LeBron James.
Of the 10 best offensive backcourts of all times, you and Rip Hamilton are up there. Andrew Toney and Cheeks, Walter Davis Westfall, Gail Goodrich, Jerry West, Magic Byron Scott, Dumars Isaiah Thomas. But Chauncey, I've never seen a backcourt like this in Golden State with the ability to shoot and their range. Can you compare it to anything?
No. This is the best shooting backcourt that we've ever seen, the best shooting duo that we've ever seen, and these guys are still fairly young, man. I mean, they're going to be doing it for a long time, and they are certainly, you know, one of the best backcourts that we've ever seen in this league, and they play well off of one another. And, you know, they make free throws, they make mid-range shots, they make jump shots, they finish at the basket. I mean, these guys are deadly. They really are. I mean, they're a treat to watch.
I was saying, Chauncey, that it's funny about, in this league, I said there's about 5 guys I'd sell the farm on. LeBron, Durant, Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, and Curry. I'd sell the farm. There's another 8 guys that are great players. James Harden, Dwight Howard, Westbrook, and Blake Griffin. They're great players, but there's always felt like to me watching Blake, there's something missing with Blake. There's a little hole late in games, and I don't know what it is. When you look at Blake Griffin, is he the complete package? Do you think there's something missing, or would you sell the farm and build your franchise around him?
You know what? Obviously, I played with Blake Griffin for 2 years,
Yeah.
and at that time, there were so many things that some holes in his game and in his approach at times that I questioned him. But I can tell you from experience, Blake is one of the hardest workers that I've ever seen, and a lot of those issues and holes that I thought then, he's answered those questions. He's answered the bell, and he's gotten better. I think Blake is flirting to be one of those guys, one of those 5, 6 guys that you talked about, because I think he's continuing to get better and better and better every single year.
When you look at San Antonio Clippers, it is very hard to pick against San Antonio. Can the Clippers pull the surprise of the last 4 or 5 years off?
I think it's a tall order. I really do, but I think they got a shot. I really do think they have a shot, man. And the athleticism is a huge advantage for them. I think their depth will come into play the longer the series goes, and it will probably be their demise. But, as far as the starting 5, starting 6 with Jamal Crawford, they can play with anybody in basketball. But at some point, those guys got to take a rest, man. Yeah. They got to take a rest, and they got to play against the depth of San Antonio. And now San Antonio having home court advantage, having stole that in Game 2. It's a tall order, but I think that they athletically, if they can keep it going and don't get worn down, they have a shot.
Chauncey, one of the classy guys this league's had in many, many years, and now working for us as an analyst, which is no surprise at all. They've been talking about bringing you on here for years when you retired. Good having you on the show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Get to Subway, chance to win Subs for Life, Subway, where superheroes eat. Chauncey is every team he went to. Melo had his best years playing with Chauncey. He really did. Like when you look at Carmelo, he was the guy you'd bring into a locker room. If you had a little issue, Chauncey just smoothed out the issue everywhere he went.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
There's a story out today. It's called sexting. It's texting, but flirting. You're texting with somebody, but you're kind of flirting and you're married or something. You don't have to be married. You don't have to have it's called sexting. So the article is, does sexting count as cheating? Okay, let me see. My staff is full of millennials. So, John, you are married. Is sexting count as cheating?
No.
Okay, no. Stanzik, very lonely. Is sexting cheating?
I would say absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Vince?
It's walking a line, but I'll say no.
Wow. Well, if your wife was here right now, what would she say to that answer? I think if you're hiding, it's cheating. To me, if you're hiding something, John, you're married.
You're just flirting. It's flirting.
Oh, really?
Right, flirting, yeah, okay, John, that's not so innocent, man.
When you send Courtney that, hey, bow, wow, wow, and your wife sees it, is it flirting? Is that how she views it? If you're hiding,
probably not.
Yeah, if you're hiding stuff, it's cheating. It's emotionally cheating. Because all affairs start with emotion.
Even
right?
if there's no intention, if John's sending a nice little email like, hey, whatever, no intention, just being nice to a coworker.
It's called sexting, not be nice to a If you're sexting, if you're flirting, there is intent. Nobody said, any guy that tells his girlfriend that, there's no intention.
I don't know, the girl, the waitress at Perkins, John thinks she looks cute, sends her a little whatever, no intention. That's
Then why would he send it?
Let her know she looks good.
Tip her. You can tip her. You don't.
The verbal tip.
Don't go where you Don't go where you shouldn't go. Don't do what you shouldn't do.
Doesn't it make everybody just a little happier, though? I mean.
Oh, really? So now you're the Pied Piper of joy. Ask your wife about that when you send Margaret a nice sext. Yeah, Vince. It just makes everybody happy. Doesn't make your wife happy.
So you're saying flirting can't be innocent?
Ever. No.
I think you're wrong about that.
But
when you take it to sexting, I think you've crossed the line.
Flirting's okay. So your wife...
Yeah, you flirt with other women?
No, I don't. I do not. I don't flirt. What are you laughing about? I don't flirt with other. Who do I flirt with?
No, I'd say everyone flirts with other women. I'm not singling you out.
Who do I flirt with?
Vince flirts with everyone. Flirts with women.
I do not flirt. Michelle Beadle hated me. She couldn't stand. Now we were good on the air, but it was not flirting.
You were good on the air because you had a flirty, good chemistry. That's why you were good on the air.
She was really talented, and I'm America's media icon. That's why it worked. It wasn't flirting, believe me.
Yeah, I think your wife's on line 9 here.
I remember one time, Michelle and I didn't hang out, and I was her friend. I always was there because she's kind of crazy. She's a little crazy, so she needed some stable force like me in her life.
Are you justifying your flirting right now?
She's kind of wacko, but I love her. But we never flirted. I never flirted with Michelle. We never once flirted. That's not what it was called. It was like she was my buddy. If I see her right now in L.A., we would just rip each other.
I think you just need to accept the fact that flirting can be innocent. But sexting, I don't think can be.
Okay. I'd like to take a call on that from a married wife. I think guys think one thing. I don't think it's...
I think girls are doing a whole lot more flirting than they let you know about.
Okay, let me ask every guy listening. You read your wife's text, and it's the mailman. Hey, I got a package for you. Pow! How you doing? How do you think that plays with him? Seriously.
Does every winky face text count as sexting?
Well, I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what a winky face emoji is.
It's the smiley face with a little wink on it. Like, hey, how's it going?
No, I think it's words. You can't send symbols. I don't know what that means.
Oh, no. Emojis are very flirty.
I'd like to take a call on this. You guys, by the way, I want to give you an update as we get the calls ready. Now, remember, Sal Powell came on the air this week on my show and said this about Chip Kelly and Marcus Mariota.
When he first met with Joe Banner, when Joe Banner was the GM of the Browns, and the Browns were looking for a head coach at the same time that the Eagles were, and Banner tells the story about Kelly saying Mariota will win, quote, multiple Super Bowls. And Banner's been telling everybody this story. If you believe a quarterback can win multiple Super Bowls, if you believe that in your heart and your intellect, you do everything in your power to get him. So I don't think he's done.
And Adam Schefter said yesterday, count me in the camp that considers Philadelphia at the 20 spot moving up to 2 to get him. So Sal Powell, who is incredibly connected to Philly, and Adam Schefter, who's connected to a lot of people, are both in on it. Wow. Now, I wouldn't. I think they're nuts. I think Chip Kelly's smart. I would not for either of these. I've told you before, 2 players I would trade multiple picks for in the history of the draft. 2 only. John Elway, Andrew Luck. They were A+ at everything. Brains, arm, decisions, leadership, maturity. Luck and Elway were A+ across.
A++.
A++. Thanks, James. But I mean, Mariota, arm, B. His college offense to the NFL transition, D. Brains, I think he's solid. I don't think he's Andrew Luck or John Elway at Stanford. Oh, I think you're nuts. All right, let me hear this. Christine. Okay, Christine. Are you married, Christine?
No, I am not.
Okay, how old are you, Christine?
I am 31.
So do you have a boyfriend?
No, I'm polyamorous, but that's beside the point.
Okay.
The point is that you can banter and you can flirt with someone and have a nice wordy conversation, but when you start using certain words is when it becomes a problem.
Okay, what would be without being vulgar, like what words are problem? Let's say you and I, Christine, are just talking right now, blah, blah, Christine, boy, it's nice. What are you doing this weekend? What would you say that's inappropriate?
If you start using anatomy, that's inappropriate at that point.
Say it again, if I what?
Anatomy. If you start describing anatomical body parts, that would be inappropriate.
So if you said, Colin, your biceps are very attractive, that's flirting. Yeah.
That would be probably acceptable flirting.
Whoa!
It's when you're using certain anatomical body parts. And you have to be, again, polyamorous. You have to be honest with the other person in your life about what you're doing outside of the relationship.
I would never talk about another woman's anatomy ever to her. What line do you want? All right, Dietrich, go ahead.
Colin, you are absolutely 100% right. I am married, have been married almost 16 years, and there is no part of right in sexting. No part.
Yeah.
Absolutely, positively not. That's when you get your ass beat till your nose bleeds.
By the way, Dietrich, it's nice to have somebody with the morals calling the show. It's nice. It's nice to have one other person with a value system. Unlike these creeps I work with. These sexters.
Putting style in black T-shirts. It's Colin Cowherd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Colin, flirting can be innocent and, in fact, does have positive psychological benefits to having better days, which ultimately improve the overall quality of life. Yeah, but it's not a better day for your wife if you're flirting on the email, and it doesn't improve your life when you go home, she finds out and screams at you all day. That's just somebody who's right now having an affair. Oh, yeah, flirting's great. It improves the quality of my life. It doesn't improve the quality of your mate's life. That is just a bunch of hooey. That's some psychobabble. That's why psychology majors can't get jobs, because of that email. Jesus. Oh, yeah, flirting's great. Helps your life out. Yeah. Yeah. How's that divorce? She took half your net worth. How's that helping your life out? Yeah, okay. Yeah. All the psychology majors I went to college with work at Burger King. Yeah. Congrats on that. All the business majors, they're doing great. Steve Keim is the GM of the Arizona Cardinals, and he was talking about the 4 things that ruin great players and why they don't make it in the NFL. And here's Steve Keim, the GM of the Cardinals.
It's always going to be enticing for us, regardless of their issues. If they have tremendous skills, I've said this before, it's, if Hannibal Lecter ran a 4.3, we'd probably diagnose it as an eating disorder, when you see a guy with a tremendous amount of talent, but he's got off-field issues, you're thinking to yourself, how bad of a kid really is he? But at the end of the day, you realize through years of experience that guys either don't make it because they've had off-field issues, they have injuries, they can't learn it, or they don't love it enough. Those are really, to me, the 4 principles of why don't guys make it.
And he's totally right. And you know what's funny? Those 4 off-field injuries, can't learn the game, don't love it, are the exact 4 why people don't make it in their jobs. I mean, if you know somebody that it doesn't work at their work, it's because either off-field issues, meaning they have drama at home, injuries, they're sick a lot, they've got physical limitations. C, can't learn the game, just not smart enough at work to figure out their task. Or 4, don't love it enough, lazy, don't love their job. Don't wake up, don't love the process, don't love going to work, they're just not into it. And what I think there's a disconnect. So if you fail in life for the same reasons you fail in sports, sports is basically a job. We just all glorify it. I mean, Derek Jeter went to work every day. Tom Brady goes to work every day. LeBron goes to work every day. We just see it as fun. Anytime a young broadcaster comes up to me, and I had one recently that asked a question, he goes, do you love sports or broadcasting? I said, where does my pension come from? A broadcasting company. Any idiot can know sports. You better know how to broadcast, because that's where your pension comes from. You can't put your kids through private school because I love the Ravens. It's like anybody can figure sports out. It's not that tough. Not a lot of people can do what Howard Stern does. Okay? So it's without an exception, ever. There's never been an exception covering over 2 decades of sports. Every guy that's been great, and I'm talking Jeter great, and Ripken great, Brady great, Andrew Luck great. There's no exception. Every guy that's been a great all-timer loves the process. It is a job. They go to work and they've got an assignment to do. And their assignment is to get better defensively and learn the game plan and study film. This idea that, guy's a natural talent, you're out of your mind. It's just a complete myth. This guy is you can score points that way. You can be okay. You're not going to be Magic Johnson. You're not going to be Larry Bird. You can play in the NBA like that. You can play in baseball. The all-timers, Wade Boggs, his mission was to get up and think about hitting all day. He used to eat chicken before every game. And the other thing that all the great athletes have ever had, they all have routines. All of them. Like every single one I've ever met, they hate getting. Now, Birdman may not have a routine. He's not a great player. He got to the Heat on a 10-day contract. So I thought that was it's really interesting. Why guys fail in sports is essentially why people fail. Off-field, injuries, can't learn stuff, don't love it. Same thing, basically.
Dude, that's got to be your greatest quote ever. And he got Hannibal Lecter in there?
I know. You know I love serial killer stuff.
And that movie, didn't you see that?
With some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
It's my Alzheimer's. My favorite movie of all time.
I believe you saw it in the theaters, and you thought it was so good, you went back the next day to see it again.
Saw it at the Gold Coast in Las Vegas, Silence of the Lambs. Liked it so much, went back the next day to watch it. Have seen it 40 times. I'm not joking. Platoon, Shawshank Redemption, Mr. Sunshine.
Mrs. Doubtfire, anything with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Two skiffs approaching with armed intruders.
How he was not nominated is an outrageous mocking of the process by Oscar voters. All right, here we go. I just want to take a phone call right now. Archie, you're in the herd. I never meet people named Archie. It's a pleasure to have a guy on named Archie. I haven't met an Archie in years. Go ahead. Go ahead, Archie.
Oh, this is Travis.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I didn't have an Archie. Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, okay. Hey, listen, I was wondering, do you think that this Mayweather-Pacquiao fight is a chance for boxing to resurrect itself and, make a comeback? Or do you think it's just sort of a one-time blip on the radar and they'll fade back into, irrelevance?
It's a one-time. It's a one-timer. People do this all the time, Travis, where they think, this is going to revitalize this and revitalize that. Boxing is not part of our daily sports intake. Newspapers used to be. They're no longer. Is to really be big in this country, you have to be on top of mind all the time for a lot of people because we've got so many, the new internet and cable TV and Twitter and social media. I mean, we think about boxing one day a year. And so this is going to be one great fight. It used to be 20 years ago in this country, you thought about boxing all the time. Like, oh, my God, when a Frazier-Ali fight again? When a Sugar Ray and Hagler? You talked about it a lot, and we just don't. And a lot of times you can have one great player on a team. It doesn't make a great team. I said this the other day with a marriage. You and your wife can be struggling. You go to Maui for a week, and you just kick it for a week. Naps, cocktails. It's romantic. But when you go back home, you have a clogged toilet and bills to pay. Shovel snow. That's reality. This night is not reality for boxing. It's an exception. It's a honeymoon. It's a trip to Maui for a couple days. But in the reality, you're going back, 2 days after that fight. By the following Wednesday, nobody's talking about boxing. I don't think they'll be talking about it by Tuesday. I think we'll talk about it next week, Saturday, day of the fight, Sunday and Monday. By Tuesday, we're done talking about it. So it's just not top of mind enough. And this happens all the time in sports. It does. You get this all the time where there's a great moment. I mean, we have daredevils. About once every 2 years, a daredevil does something, and we're all kind of glued to it. Remember that guy that walked across Chicago, Nick Wallenda? Yeah, I mean, Nick Wallenda's amazing. I can't take my eyes off that stuff. And every year he's got a stunt. How often do we talk about daredevils and walking across the Grand Canyon? Never except for the day before, the day of, and the day after.
Colin Cowherd. Looking good. Well, looking okay.
Thank you. Hold on, let me blow my nose.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
This Cleveland team, to me, LeBron can go out for 6 minutes. You don't even notice it certain times. Every time Miami had to sit LeBron James or foul trouble, game over. You just crossed your fingers, looked at the clock. I don't feel that in Cleveland. I think he's got a legitimate big, a star offensive player. I think we forget the last couple of years in Miami, Bosh became like a glorified two. I mean, he was like a shooting guard, and Dwayne Wade could never stay healthy. I mean, we forget that. The second-year Heat team that won was great. By the third year, take away one Ray Allen shot, they lose that series. And the last year, they got blown out in that series, and they wouldn't have gotten to the finals in the West. Part of Miami and LeBron getting to the finals, the East was awful. Indiana was the second-best team for most of it. David West and Paul Pierce and a bunch of C players. Paul George, my bad. Paul George, David West, and a bunch of C players. That was your second best team. And if somehow you could get David West or somebody in foul trouble, you were down to a one-man offensive team. Here's how bad Indiana was. Roy Hibbert became a viable offensive player for them when they used to face Miami. I mean, that's how bad Miami was defensively. Roy Hibbert became unstoppable. Remember that? Remember a couple of those series? They can't stop Roy Hibbert. Miami had no size, and they made Bosch into a 2 or a 3. You're listening to The Herd on the TuneIn Radio app, Possible, and ESPN Radio. Listen to this. The Mets-Yankees play this weekend. Of the Mets' 25 players, 16 came through the organization through drafting or international free agency. For the Yankees, it's 4. Let me ask you this. Do you love a team more? It's interesting, I think. If they're young and, like the Mets are, they're young and you're growing and you feel like these guys, I've watched the process, or do you just want to win games? Does it feel any more special if you can grow with the team? I think, and it's interesting because to me, just get good. I don't really care how. I don't want to meet your scouts. I have no interest. Just get good. I couldn't care less. It really means nothing to me. Fire your coaches. Just get good. I never had a problem with the Heat players colluding. I didn't have a problem LeBron getting guys to Cleveland. Are you going to be good tomorrow when I pay $150 for a ticket? Okay. I mean, the truth is, it doesn't. I think it works that way with kids. I want to live my kid's life. It's more enriching. But I don't look at athletes as part of the family. Like, to me, I'm paying, you're entertaining, get good now. I have no interest you hitting 240 for 6 years and then having a breakout year your 5th year in the league.
Yeah, you don't have interest, but it still means more and feels better. If you watch a team struggle and you watch them, advance past adversity, like Jordan and the Bulls, you couldn't get over the hump, then you finally do.
Okay.
It feels so much better to watch them succeed after you've watched them fail. Like LeBron, they failed in Miami that first year. It felt better winning it the second year. If they won the first year, it wouldn't have felt as great.
Let me ask you this. When the Yankees brought in A-Rod and he lead them to the World Series title, did you cheer less than you did with...
Let me ask you this. Who do they like better in New York? They like the guy that was homegrown, Jeter, over the more talented A-Rod.
Well, A-Rod's not likable. A-Rod's not even... That's a bad example. That's
a perfect example.
Okay, how about this? Ortiz isn't the Red Sox. He's from Minnesota.
Yeah, but he was awful with Minnesota. He wasn't any good.
Did they like Manny or Ortiz better? They like Ortiz.
Well, Manny came from Cleveland. So that's a bad example.
Okay, who's a homegrown Red Sox? Who's a homegrown Red Sox?
Jacoby Ellsbury is now the Yankees.
Okay, yeah.
Dustin Pedroia. They love Dustin Pedroia, yeah.
I think they like David Ortiz. He's the biggest star. So the homegrown guy, David Ortiz, who do they like?
They liked Nomar. That's who they liked, the homegrown guy. Yeah, no, I think that's kind of my point.
So you think the homegrown guy means more to the organization?
Absolutely.
I think the star does. By the way, who's the most popular Mariner? Robinson Cano.
False. King Felix. Homegrown.
No way.
Absolutely.
No. Dude, he plays every 5th day.
And he won the Cy Young, and they like him more, and he's been there longer.
Steve, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Colin? Yeah, I don't care how we get our talent. I just want to win now. Now, I'm a Yankees fan. Look, I love Jeter, and that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that a guy comes in, is that good, and stays with the team.
Yes.
But just buy talent around you. The guys that say they want to build their teams from the bottom up are teams that have never won. It's Twins fans. It's Cubs fans. It's not people that have experienced winning and know what it means.
I totally agree with Steve. By the way, was Kareem a Laker? He was a Buck. Was Shaq a Laker? He was with the Magic.
Yeah, who'd they like more? Magic Johnson, the guy they drafted.
That's because
You're losing this one.
No, that's because his name was Magic.
And they drafted him, and he was there his whole career.
Kobe was their guy. They like Shaq more because Shaq was funny.
Ask any Laker fan who they like more now, Kobe or Shaq.
Well, but when they were playing together, Shaq was more popular. I think this guy's right. People go, oh, what about Jeter? Oh, good God. You can't give me Jeter.
Why don't you take the next call? Who agrees with me?
Okay, let's see this knucklehead. Go ahead, Dante.
Hey, love the show, Colin.
Right.
I'm a Braves fan, and I strongly feel like going through the organization and building your players, it just means a lot more and seeing them progress. But I know you're all about the winning.
Well, I'd say this. Dante, you like the Braves when it was about growing. That's because for 10 years you had all these farmhands become stars. But if you look at let's look at Atlanta sports right now. You know, I mean, if you look at all these Atlanta, how about these Hawks guys? Are they all homegrown guys? Because the Hawks now, everybody's going to Hawks games. Not all these. Paul Millsap wasn't a Hawk. Al Horford. I mean, was Al Horford a Hawk from the beginning? Was Millsap? Teague was, wasn't he? Teague was. Horford is. But Korver was it? You cheer Kyle Korver. I mean, everybody loves the Hawks finally in Atlanta. You got 2 homegrown guys and a bunch of guys import-export business. Yeah, fans, by the way, you get a lot of these fans. Oh, no, when you grow together. Here, let me get another one. Okay, Chad, are you a grow together and a wonderful childhood together when we can blossom like a rose, or do you want to win now?
I'll say this. I want to win now. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. It's been 60 years since we've been relevant for an extended period of time, and largely that was because of a lack of quarterback. But I do admit, if it was Stafford to finally win it for us, it would be a little cooler than if Minnesota had finished with Favre and they got him for that 1 year and he just won a Super Bowl and then retired. The idea that Stafford has years ahead of him, that there's still hope for the future as opposed to Peyton Manning going to the Broncos and getting it done real quick before he retires.
But Stafford's never going to win a title. If Tom Brady comes here in 4 years and win, who do you cheer more for?
That's a valid point. Everybody wants to win now, especially when there's been a big drought. I just say that I do think there is a little bit to it that if a guy that never done it before brought it to a city that never done it before, I think there's always a cool story there for you to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Matt Harvey story is awesome. But I think you cheer when Bartolo Colon, the human drumstick, wins too. Guy's got the worst shape in sports. I'm telling you right now. But the idea of having this perfect homegrown unit is so unrealistic in pro sports today. It just doesn't happen. It's a hurt.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
throw to the plate, safe at the plate,
right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
We got into what I thought was a very interesting topic, and we've all got basically different psychologies, right? Like some things matter to me based on my childhood, some things matter to you. Do you like your stars homegrown or store purchased? The Yankees, over the last 15 years, they just go out and buy their stars. The Florida Marlins, have had those organizations where they bring them in, sell them off, and it doesn't bother me at all. I don't feel it's any more special if it's homegrown. And we got into this discussion with these guys during the break. So Stanzik and Vince, you asked a very interesting question in regards to gardening. So I want to take the audience. So Vince goes, well, is it more special if you grow the vegetables in your garden and then they take time and you water them day after day after day, and then the tomato is ready and then you cut it up on your plate? And I said, no, I'd go to Whole Foods and buy one in an hour, feel the exact same way. It means nothing, and my pants and my fingernails wouldn't be dirty. I don't have the time. I'm not interested whatsoever. Stanzik went to some communist manifesto.
Yeah, I'm rifling through the Communist Manifesto. Let's not talk about it. Okay. But there is some sense of satisfaction when you start from scratch and you complete a task. Like if you're building something, if you start from nothing and make it, you get a greater sense of satisfaction than if you go buy it.
So you
or if you just make a part. It's like specialization's killing
my house in Connecticut right now. I'd feel better sleeping at night if I had a bad back because I built it.
You'd be so much more proud of yourself if you built it than bought it. Absolutely.
No, I wouldn't, because I'd work in construction. I'm proud of myself now because I'm in radio. I don't want
email.
I don't want.
We all enjoy the courtship. Colin just wants the wedding.
No, I don't need this. If I worked in construction, that would be great, right? That's a fine job, but that's a hard job. I'm proud of myself that I don't have to work hard and make a good living. I'm very proud of myself for that. I don't want to have a bad back. I don't want to be in a hot room.
Let me see this. Aren't you proud of your career where you started essentially from nothing and you've risen to where you are?
I wish it would have happened much faster.
You think you'd be happier if you graduated college and they were like, here you go?
I'd be happier if my producer didn't argue with me all day. Why don't we start with that? If I wasn't putting fires out on my show every 15 minutes. No, it doesn't matter to me. I wish I was Bob Costas and could be great at 29 years old. I wish I was more talented than I am. So I didn't have to grind for 50 years, but that's all I've got. I don't have a great voice, so I have to grind, and I'm a Mason. That's what I've had to do. I wish I was as talented as Al Michaels and could be doing like Major League Baseball at 28. I don't think I'm happier than Al. I think Al was better than I was because Al's more talented.
No, but I think Al's happier having risen through the ranks. He was in Hawaii doing minor league baseball for years. He's happy that he had to do that. No one handed him anything. He's proud of the work he did to get where he is, and so are you.
I'm telling you, when I go to
no one's handed success. Everyone has to earn success. Who's happier, the millionaire that made it on their own and started a business, or the guy that won the lottery?
Well, the guy that's more mature had to do it on his own than the trust fund kid. Yes, that I will argue you're true. But I got to tell you, when I go to Whole Foods, I'm just as proud when I can afford those fresh tomatoes as if I'd grown them. I like the ability. It's like this. Some women don't use, like, epidurals when they get pregnant. They want to go the natural way. You're out of your mind. They created that stuff because in the caveman days, you had a baby and were screaming in terror. There's a reason they create all these pills. They work. Use them. If you've got high blood pressure, eat a salad, exercise more, and take a pill. I don't know. This puritanical American New England thing. I'm not saying hard work's not great. I love to jog. I like to exercise. I enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me. I don't like to lift weights, but I still do. If I could still jog every day, which I enjoy, but take a pill to have decent abs, I would do it. I don't enjoy lifting at all. I hate it. I literally hate lifting weights, but I do it 3 days a week because my wife's attractive and I don't want to be a meatball. I've never liked lifting weights. I hate it.
Right, but you were saying earlier, everyone that's been great in every industry loves the process. So are those guys great for the process? They like that. They're proud of the process. They enjoy it, and they get success for it.
I'm saying the reason, I'll take me because I know me better than anybody else. The fact that I love the process is why I've been successful. Yes, there's no question. But the process would have been much shorter, and I would have been much happier if I was more talented. I've had to grind. I've been doing this 25 years. It would have been great to be, name the young broadcaster there's a bunch of them out there. I'm not more happy because it took me longer to nail it. But I'm not saying if you'd have given me this, I wouldn't have been as good. And if you'd have given it to me, you don't give jobs like this to people. You have to have some experience.
That's kind of my point.
Nobody gets to the bigs without taking batting practice.
Right. No one's handed a trophy unless they earned it.
We're both acknowledging that hard work is...
Yeah, and I'm saying people are proud of hard work, and you're saying they'd be equally proud if they didn't have to work as hard. And I think that's where we disagree.
John, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a Royals fan, and you keep, harping on the if teams can have championships handed to them, like, through buying players, free agency, that kind of stuff. They're happier with that rather than homegrown players. And, Dayton Moore, he was with the Braves earlier. You talked about that with the Braves fan.
Yes.
I know as a Royals fan, when Dayton Moore took over in 2006, it was rough. I mean, they had some really bad teams. And now they're starting to see success. And the majority of these guys are homegrown guys.
Yeah, it's great, but you have no titles. The Yankees have a bunch, and they're not homegrown.
Well, that is true.
Yeah, 100% true.
The success they are having now.
But they've been having it for 100 years. You have none. So would you rather have all those titles or a shortstop that you watched at Chattanooga for 4 years? I mean, seriously, you have no titles. Congratulations. The Yankees have 27. I'll take their life. I mean, so I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I know you watched your minor league shortstop in Afraid of Washington. Terrific. The Yankees watched there an hour ago with the Red Sox. Now he's with the Yankees batting second. I'll take that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just Listen, In the ecosystem of our country, we need people like me and farmers. Farmers go out, till the land, and create the vegetables. But they can get top dollar for vegetables if I'm willing to go to a nice steakhouse and buy them. If nobody went out to dinner like me, and I'd rather go out to dinner a lot, then the farmer, by the way, is the farmer's meat worth as much if those big steakhouses don't buy them? I mean, the reality is the price of the steakhouse drives the farmer to make more money, right? So farmers like the fact that their food can go to a higher end, I would think. And you need the farmer and the person that doesn't like to farm. So in the big ecosystem, you need everybody. I support the farmer.
Right, but if you keep extrapolating it, the farmer's self-sufficient, you aren't. So if you go back into those times, the farmer, you need the farmer first.
Yes, oh, absolutely. You need the bridge builder before the wine sommelier. Yes, you absolutely need the bridge builder and the road maker before the author, the media critic, and the wine sommelier. Absolutely. But once you have all of them, I'd rather be the wine sommelier than the bridge builder. And so I was born in 64, not 1804. So now I have a choice. If I was born in 1804, I'd be the farmer because I'd get the first guy to get my hands on the tomato. And I'd keep it from the wine critic back in 1804. Now it's been established, if you could be born into both, I would rather be born into an easier life than a harder life. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I did not have an easy life. And my parents did the best they could. They were awesome. But I don't think I'd be any less happy if I would have gotten here at 32 years old and not 42.
It's a work ethic, Cowherd.
Whatever. The whole thing right there, I don't know if we accomplished anything with that segment. I don't think we accomplished.
I feel better about it. I think we came to a common ground.
You and I did?
I did internally. Maybe you didn't.
Okay. Well, you got your internal mechanisms, whatever.
Technology gone bad. Gone bad. This is the Thundering Herd podcast.
I don't think it's a great draft. I really don't. I think Leonard Williams at USC is the best player. Amari Cooper is the second best player. And then I think there's a bunch of guys who, depending on the fit, could be really nice NFL players. But I don't, a lot of times, like last year's draft, I thought, man, there's a lot of really good players. I think there's all sorts of busts in this first round. I do think the first 7 or 8 picks, like the New York Giants need an offensive lineman. I think there's a couple of good ones. They're going to get one. If you need a specific player early, but, take Randy Gregory, the Nebraska guy. And Randy Gregory's a really good player in college, but he's going to be one of the top 10 guys taken. He's got a drug issue, which is pot, so it doesn't scare me off, but he's had injuries. Well, that's 2 red flags. Top 10 pick, I don't want 2 red flags. Jameis Winston, major red flag. He's wildly immature. Marcus Mariota has played in a collegiate offense, not a pro offense. Major concern. So you got all sorts of guys in your top 10 picks, all sorts of red flags, all sorts of warnings. There is no Andrew Luck in this draft. By the way, I love Leonard Williams at USC. He was hurt a lot in college. He was. He can play inside, outside. But I don't know much about the labrum, but I don't even know where the labrum is exactly. But his labrum was hurt all the time. It's your back of your shoulder. Is that your labrum? He had that all busted up or pulled up. I don't know much about the labrum. So if you're hurt in college a lot, and he was, well, what's to say you wouldn't be hurt in the NFL? Amari Cooper, again, a guy I really, really like. But Amari Cooper is, he can kind of drift sometimes. Sometimes you're like, he runs out of his routes. He's not always the most disciplined. His speed's okay. He's not a complete burner, but it's pretty good. Where's the labrum at, by the way? Are we right there? Not much of a doctor, obviously. So even the guys I like, they're not absolute home runs. Leonard got hurt in college. Amari sometimes, not a burner, could drift a little undisciplined at times with his routes. But he's got good hands. He's got good enough speed. He's a tough kid. He can make a catch he made big catches in big games. And sometimes was very disciplined. And nobody catches him from behind, even though he's not a burner. But there's a lot of guys. There's a Michigan State corner, I think, Spindley. He's going to be a top 10 player. Everybody's like, oh, great. And I'm like, I don't know. Corners these days got to be physical. Got to be Richard Sherman. Got to be physical. I think I've looked at all these safeties in the draft. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of these safeties. There's a couple linebackers. Don't love any of them. There's no Luke Kuechly here where you're like, oh, that guy's Patrick Willis a few years ago to San Francisco. You're like, oh, that guy's going to walk and be a Pro Bowler 10 years. He was. I can remember the day he got drafted at Ole Miss. I said San Francisco got the best player in the draft, and I think he went 11th. And I went on the following Monday, and I'm like, they got the best player in the draft. He's going to be a 10-year Pro Bowler. And there's some guys that you just know they're going to be really, really, really successful. There's not a lot of guys in this draft like that for me. There's not a lot of guys in this draft that I go, oh, there's absolutely – I think Amari Cooper and Leonard Williams are about as close as you get.
A++.
John, tell me about the labrum, and how do you know about the labrum?
I've had a labral surgery actually, and it hurts, and it never feels the same. And, yeah, labral surgery would really labrum problems, they scare me, too. I've actually had another shoulder surgery after that.
So how big are you?
I'm 6 foot 185.
So you're a normal-sized guy like me. So you had a labrum surgery, and it's never been the same?
No, never even close. It hurts all the time, every day.
And what do you do? I mean, do you lift stuff?
I do. I play tennis. I play golf. I try and lift now. I can't really lift anymore because of it. I can't do, like, bench press and stuff like that.
All right, I'm off on Leonard Williams. I'm going to pass on him in this draft after John's call about the labrum surgery. That scared me off. Some insider reporting right there. Did you guys, was I the only person last night? Now, I have a rule at my house. What NBA games are on tonight? Because I have a rule at my house. I don't watch sports on Friday. Friday is family night with the kids and with the wife. So because I'm on Friday, I don't have to talk about Friday games on Monday. So what games are tonight being played? Rockets, Mavs, I'm not going to watch. Oh, boy. What time's Clippers, Spurs? 9:30? I have to watch some of that. Raptors, Wizards, I won't watch. No, I get the wife to fall asleep, yeah. I want to watch the Spurs Clippers. That's in San Antonio, though. I don't bet NBA. What's the line on that? I don't bet the NBA. What is the line on the Spurs Clippers? Because I'm going to tell you right now, Spurs are blowing them out tonight.
-4.5 Spurs.
Take the Spurs. Spurs going to win comfortably in that basketball game tonight. Think I'm wrong? How about this? Hundy snap. Hundy?
I'll take the Clips if you bungee jump and or fall asleep in a hyperbaric chamber.
Not going to do either of those things. What was it? Oh, we forgot to tell the Vince story.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Oh, God. Oh, we can't do both those. Polly.
Oh, yeah.
No, we can't do both. I'll do one now. Vince, take me 90 seconds. Vince, we're going to Vegas next week, so Vince wants to bring Evander Holyfield on the show on Friday. And he says, as a stunt, I'm going to ask Evander Holyfield to put a glove on and punch me. And I'm like, you're an idiot. He's Evander Holyfield. And Vince said, well, he could just punch me in the shoulder with a glove on. And I'm like, you're no less of an idiot. He's Evander Holyfield. So let me ask you, there's no way in a million years I would let Evander Holyfield punch me anywhere. Even at 40 years old. Is he 45 years old or 40 years old? With a glove on. Vince, your takeaway was you don't even think it'll leave a bruise.
Okay, Evander's 52.
52 years old.
So that's my point. He's going to stand in front of me, take one shot.
With a glove on.
With a glove on, and I'm walking away and probably smiling.
No way. No way.
What if it was a body shot?
Oh, first of all, I'm not letting Evander Holyfield take any shot at me. Body shot, you're out of your gourd.
You notice it started with me taking the punch. I knew you weren't taking the punch.
No, I'm not going to do it. No way. I am.
Everyone thinks he'd break my arm. I'm telling you, I'll be fine.
Oh, God, no way. Evander Holyfield. Do you see how ripped he was?
He's 52.
Dude, he's
2% body fat.
52 years old, but he looks, walking around a mall, he looks like he's 22.
I'm with Vince.
I'd be more concerned about hurting him if I punched him.
Do you think, Stanzik, would you let Evander Holyfield punch you in the
arm? I'd much rather have him punch
okay,
Vince in the arm.
I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to do it right now. See how much money I have right now. I have $21. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bet you I have $22 on me.
You picked a bad day.
I got $22.
Yeah, do a quick honey snap or two.
Are you going to Vegas with us?
I'll be in Chicago for the draft.
I was going to say, I'll let Evander punch him, and then after you see him bleed from the ears, I'll give you $22 if you let Evander punch you. Oh, I think Vince is going to start crying like a little lamb.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast. Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.